We get a lot of questions about owning a house in France after Brexit. I'm Dan Newton. I've got over 30 years experience in real estate here in France, and hopefully I'll have the answers for you. Well, I won't go into the arguments whether Brexit was a good thing or not, so I think everyone's got their own opinion on that. The thing is, it is now a voted, enacted thing. So what happens for those of you out there that still want to buy a house in France? The first thing is that anyone, anywhere can own a house in France. The Brexit question comes into play more on how you can actually use that house afterwards. This breaks down into two categories. The first category being the holiday home and the second category being a full-time residence. If you're actually buying a holiday home, then, well, obviously, like as mentioned, you can go ahead and buy it. Now that Brexit is done and dusted, let's say, if you are resident in the UK and you actually have a holiday home over here, you are considered as, like everyone else, as non-European residents. This isn't something that was brought out just for the English due to Brexit. It wasn't a bad agreement, it's just the fact the English have been reclassed into non-European residents. And so the 90-day rule applies. When you actually want to use it though, you can't use it for more than 90 days in any 180-day period. That doesn't need to be in one stint of 90 days. You can break it down into 9 times 10 days or 2 times 45 or whatever you want. But it is a maximum 90 days in a 180 period. Once you get up to 90 days usage, you then have to, well, leave France and not come back for another 90 days, so the 180-day period is up. Obviously a lot of people did panic about this, but when you think about it, 90 days, that is like pretty well 3 months. So yes, there are some people out there who will actually stay in a house for 6 months and go 6 months here, 6 months back. But A, do they really stay 6 months in one house? You often go away for a break somewhere, so that would count as well. B, most holiday home owners will actually come over, let's say, for a month in the house, go back, etc, etc. So when you work it out, you can pretty well roll on and keep on using the holiday home in a normal way, but just don't forget that there is that actually 90-day side there. If you do want to stay more than 3 months in one go, you can actually apply for a long stay visa. This isn't a residence visa, I'll get on to that in a minute, but you can actually ask for a visa for 4 to 6 months. That needs to be justified, but it is a possible choice. A lot of information out there on the actual government websites, so I won't go into detail on that because it is for very few people. But no, it is there. If, on the other hand, you actually buy a house in France where you actually intend to live, that is still totally possible. It's a bit more complicated these days, but totally possible. What the French are mainly interested in is the fact that you'll be self-sustaining with some sort of income. They've fixed some rules on this, I'll be going into that in a tick. But it's totally understandable if you ask me, in the sense if you're moving into a country, they want to make sure that you're not going to be a burden to that country. So they ask for a self-sustaining income and proof that you can actually look after yourself. So to actually move to France, the first step you need to do is ask for a long stay visa. This needs to be applied for within the 90 days that you are moving to France. Obviously don't leave it too late because there is administration time, but you can't do it any sooner than 90 days before. You can find the actual necessary forms on the government site, which is france-visa.gouv.fr. So, like I said, you need to ask for a visa, you need to justify that. The main justification is sustainable income. What is sustainable income? You need to justify to the French state that you have an income which is the equivalent of what the French call the SMIC. SMIC is basically minimum salary in France. In January 2022, the SMIC rate is €1,269. You need to justify you have that as an income, a minimum income. Officially speaking, it's for a couple. Apparently, a couple with a child, it will go through as well. If you have more than one child, it will go up, but nothing major. And to be honest, from talking to different people, it is actually, there's different criteria come in, so there's no actual fixed rate as such once you're over the SMEEK. They will take into account whether you actually purchased your house outright cash, whether you've got a loan on it, what will be the repayments, how many kids you have, what sort of age they are, where you are, etc, etc. So the SMEEK is the minimum, the rest is, they've got guidelines. The actual income itself doesn't necessarily have to be earned in France. It can be foreign income, rental, it could also be pension plans, etc, etc. The main thing they want to know that on a monthly basis you have that income coming into your bank account. When I first moved here back in '86, we actually had to do a similar thing to get our carte de séjour. Admittedly, the amounts were less in those days, but anyhow, the actual state did, for the first, let's say, initial year or so, do occasional checks on our bank account to make sure that money was coming in. Also, when you start moving over here, your actual visa applications will go in periods which get bigger and bigger, and each time you reapply, you will actually need to justify that you have that income coming in to your French bank account. Also, concerning the house, the actual state will take into account in the calculation whether you own your house outright, whether you have a loan on it, and if so, how much, or if you're actually renting your property. All that comes into the calculation, and this is why we can't really give fixed figures as such. But obviously, if you own the house outright, you have a lot better rating than if you actually are renting your house or have a mortgage. If you think about moving to France and setting up a business over here, that can be done as well. They actually want to see some security behind you, but also if your business is going to be run in France in the French system, they will need like a market study where you can actually justify that it is viable for you to do so. For example, buying a Gîte complex, moving over here to run it, you could actually show the past books of the Gîte complex to them, saying this is how much it earns, and then normally that will satisfy their needs. Obviously, you need to justify that you have a health insurance. This could either be private insurance, insurance taken out especially for it. It could be, if you're actually retired, it could actually be your actual state insurance with the actual European agreement. Then after that, if you come into work here, after 3 months you can actually sign up to the French national insurance. Also, if you're a salaried worker, you will be offered a mutuelle agreement. A mutuelle is actually the top-up health insurance. So, to summarise, if you want to move over here, make sure you ask for a visa before leaving your home country. Secondly, you need to justify an income for a couple, like I said, minimum of €1,269 per month. And thirdly, make sure you actually have a health insurance policy to cover you while you're over here. If you've got all those, then there shouldn't be any problem moving over to France. Hope this helps, and speak soon. Bye.